Well, greetings and salutations, everyone. I hope everyone is doing well today. Today, I have an update on the channel. I have some really terrifying encounters, and I have, an update on DJ. I pretty much have a really decent upload, and I'm really excited to share it with you guys. So before we get into it, though, a couple links. As you know, I rely on Patreon, PayPal, and my merch to help the channel to continue to grow and go. The links to Patreon and PayPal are in the description below. My merch is displayed directly under the video. Also, Dogman Frightening Encounters Volume 1, 2, and 3, the audiobook versions. They were written and researched by Tom Lyons, narrated and produced by me, Jeffrey Nadolny. Those audiobooks are available on Audible, Amazon, and iTunes, the links to which are also in the description as well. And finally, last but definitely not least, if you'd really like to help support this channel to continue to grow and go, simply subscribe, click the like button, and please leave a comment. It really does help, and it matters. And now, everyone, I have taken far too much of your time. Let's get on with today's upload, shall we? Alright, channel update. Pretty excited about what I've got coming up this week, hopefully. The woman from South Dakota reached out to me a couple days ago and said she's going to be free this week sometime to do her interview. She is the one that thought she was rescuing a wolf pup, not a pup, but a juvenile wolf from a leg trap. Was hesitant, didn't get bit. A couple years down the road, she is saved by that same, what she thought was a wolf juvenile, but was actually a dogman. She was saved from some sort of demonic looking creature. Resembled a dogman, but I don't know. I don't know what she saw. Second update. Someone reached out to me the other day. I don't listen to other people's channels. I've never done it. I don't like to. And it's nothing against other channels. It's absolutely nothing against anyone. I just don't like to because I don't want to feel like I'm competing with people or I don't want to be jaded, I guess, is the best. I don't, and I wish everyone the best, I really do, but I just don't. So, and I've heard, I hear when there's an upload, like I heard about Brad's uploads on Dogman Encounters with Vic Cundiff. And I've heard other, I've heard that, subscribers that I've had have gone on other channels. You just hear it through the grapevine. Subscribers share it with you, this, and that. Gentleman reached out to me. Gentleman who I've heard discussed, and I'm not sure the experience or encounters, but I'm going to talk to him, and then we're going to do the interview. I guess he raised a dogman pup for a while until it had to die, or whatever happened to it. It got killed, or I don't know what happened. But I guess that dogman, its name was Rascal. And I am going to talk with him. Usually, when I have subscribers come from other channels, I don't know what it is, but I think it's the freedom that I offer them. I offer them the mic. I say, the mic is yours. I don't direct the show. Usually some other things come out that haven't been shared before, so I'm hoping that would be the case. Now, that is the update for the channel this week. Seems like it's going to be a pretty good week. I'm really hoping that the woman from South Dakota can secure some time to get that interview done, because the way she shared it with me blew my mind, and it will blow yours as well. So let's get into some encounters now. Today's first encounter. I'd like to share two experiences, one of my own and one that happened to my uncle. First, my uncle's experience, because I think that one's more interesting. Now, I wasn't there to experience it firsthand, but he swears up and down that it is true. My uncle and his twin were doing door-to-door candy bar fundraising for his school in rural Michigan in the early to mid-'80s. It was getting to be dusk, and they decided they will be wrapping up selling with one more house and then go home. The last house is this house that sits at a dirt road intersection, sort of on the top of a capital T-shaped intersection, so that the front of the house faces the bottom of the T. Facing from the house down the road that makes up the vertical part of the T, there's a wooded lot on the right side of that road and a field on the left of the road. I hope all of this is clear. Anyway, they finish up making their pitch to the house and walk down the driveway, and as they are getting to the road, there is this thing that comes out of the road. My uncle said that the closest description he could give was that it looked like a puma. At first, they were sort of scared, like anyone would be if they spotted a puma as a child, but nothing seems out of the ordinary about the puma itself. It gets about halfway across the road, the vertical part of the T, stops and looks at them. It stands on its hind legs and sprints the remainder of the road, leaps over an embankment on the far side, and runs across the field into the woods in the distance. After it stood, it remained on two legs until it disappeared into the tree line. They were understandably freaked out, ran back up to the house, and asked to use the phone and have their parents come and pick them up. They were far too scared to walk back home. Now on to my experience. I'm not sure exactly what this thing was, but it was something certainly abnormal. It occurred in north-central North Carolina. I used to work a second shift at Walmart, meaning I got off of work at 1 a.m. I was driving home, and there's a portion of the drive where it's not uncommon to see deer at night. That section is a bridge where there's a lake to the left, a spillway that goes under that bridge, and a big swampy wooded area to the right. I get to the area and I see what I think is a group of deer crossing the road, barely illuminated by my headlights, so I slow down like anyone would and should. As I get closer, I realize there's at least 6 of these things, which would be a lot for a deer herd. And they are not running like deer at all, even though they were running at least as quickly as a deer does. Deer run with sort of an up and down bounding motion. These things were running like a dog does when it moves at a quick-paced walk, alternating legs diagonal from each other. But again, they were moving quickly. Right as the last one crossed, I was close enough for them to be pretty thoroughly lit up by the headlights. One of the last one turns its head and looks at me while it's running, and I get a good look at its face, and it looks canine, but the whole group was at least as big as the average deer in the area, unless there's a pack of Great Dane running in rural North Carolina. I have no explanation for what I saw. All right, for those of you who listened to yesterday's upload, I made the comment where I said there are experiences out of all of the encounters that I've shared and had shared with us, some that I don't forget because they just stick out for some reason or another. And whether it be government or some firearm related, those seem to be the ones that really pop for people. Now, interestingly enough, there is an experience that I've not forgotten, but the first one just reminded me of. Now, we all, for those of you who know Bo, remember Bo? He lives in New River, Tennessee area. Now, he's had dogmen and Sasquatch on his property. He befriended a small kind of pod of Bigfoot. They've gone to war with dogmen. And there was a story or an experience that he had. This is after, I believe, the government burned his house down. And thankfully enough, his wife TJ and he and his new child were not in their cabin during the time. But he was hunting. He was in a field. And he was at one end of the field, kind of hidden, blending into, the wood line on the opposite side. And he sees this mountain lion, cougar, puma, whatever you want to call it, large cat. And he is kind of like, what is that? Wow. That's not something, I don't care who you are, when you're hunting for deer or whatnot, you do not want to see a cougar, mountain lion, puma, whatever you want to call them once again, or a bear while you're hunting, because that just kind of just messes the day up, Now, he's watching this puma, and he's sure that it's got his scent. And as the puma is making it across the field, but it's on the tree line, it's just walking on the side there, just coming towards him. It kind of gets up onto a fallen tree that's jutting out from the tree line and kind of looking in Bo's direction. Now, all of a sudden, he sees this hand with claws reach out and scoop this monster cat right out of the air. And just this dog man has its way with the cat. There is not even a challenge. Now, I don't know if it's because, well, I do know. It was because they had mentioned puma, cougar, mountain lion, whatnot. And there are just these subtle little hints that make us remember different encounters, and I think it's interesting. But it just goes to show how dangerous of a apex predator a dogman really is. I mean, a cat, a large cat, they're the apex predators. There is no, minus dogman and werewolf, there is no biological canine that can compare to a lion, tiger, or whatnot. It's just not. I mean, unless you throw in like 4 or 5 Rhodesian Ridgebacks on one cat, a very unfair fight. But you put 2 and 2 and the cat's going to come out walking ahead, So these are the apex predators. They're not afraid of anything. And they have a sense that, just beyond belief. And for that dog man to come out of nowhere, unheard, and just yoke it right out of the friggin' air and have its way with that cat is truly a marker of how powerful, how intelligent, and how tactful these monsters really are. On to the second encounter. When I was younger, sometimes at night I would hear weird noises at my childhood home, which was in a small country town in Wisconsin, population almost 10,000. I would hear or sometimes see things at times when I was living there. It would range from weird scratching, knocking, weird animal noises, all the way to seeing bright glowing eyes constantly peering out from the darkness of a thicket in between the houses from across the street. I honestly had no idea what it was, but almost at least once a week at night I would see those eyes. Here is where it gets weirder for me. See, sometimes I would run back and forth in the kitchen since I wouldn't be allowed to go outside past 9 p.m., and I needed to burn my energy out because I had ADHD and I had not a good outlet for it. But anyway, one night I was dancing around a little, My dad fell asleep in the living room couch, having passed out from coming home from work, and I had my earbuds in with a little lamp that sat on the corner of the kitchen counter. When I was doing this, I saw something out of the corner of my eye as I was turning around. It was just almost out of my peripheral. I stopped and turned toward the window, which was in front of the sink and facing outward along the street. From what I saw, the thing seemed doggish. It was kind of an ashen gray color with short hair that looked like it was almost non-existent. The ears sort of looked clipped at the tips, and you could sort of see its ribs, and it stopped near the streetlight. I had initially thought that it was a stray dog or a dog that had escaped from the shelter, as that tended to happen a lot because of terrible funding the shelter had. The street lamp that was at the corner of the sidewalk washed over this creature as it edged closer to the honey yellow light, and I could see that it did not look right at all. Like, not sickly looking, but sort of unnatural in a way that people need to take a double look to confirm what they are looking at. This creature was indeed an ashy gray color, and did have what looked to be clipped ears. But its mouth was very strange. It was awkwardly stuck in a crooked position. You may think the dog may have had an accident or came from an abused home, but you see, most dogs who have bodily problems like that usually are put down because many of them couldn't eat or live properly without assistance, and the shelter couldn't afford that sort of thing at the time. Many people didn't want to adopt a dog like that, so it was already weird to see this strange creature with a physical issue walking around without a collar and no owner. I had taken out my earbuds at this point and opened the window a crack. I don't know why, really. Maybe to call it, or maybe I thought it would help me see it better. As I opened the window, it seemed to have heard the noise and turned its head to face me, which, thinking about it now, was practically impossible because it barely made any noises besides a light scuffling sound as I pushed the window open. As this thing faced me, I saw something very disturbing. Its teeth. They were not canine at all. They were human-like, but arranged to fit in a dog's mouth. And its eyes were huge but red, not an amber red color or a reddish brown, but glowing red. Like when you see a camera at someone and their eyes flash that red, and it smiled at me. Well, I think it tried to smile, but its jaw was still in that awkward position, and its weirdly long tongue lobbed out. In a calm panic, I quickly shut the window hard and locked it. That seemed to make it stop staring. It tilted its head toward me one last time before shutting its mouth and dashing out of the streetlight's light and up into the darkness of the street ahead. I vaguely recall that it did not have a tail. Maybe it did, a stubby one, I can't say for sure. And I don't want to remember. After this experience, I locked all the windows, locked the doors at night, and kept at least one light on everywhere I went. I was really scared for a whole straight week because I would hear scratches at the garage door, which had another door that was connected to the front of the garage that you have to get into the garage, and or the front door near our living room. The other noises started 3 days after the scratching started and refused to look out the window or open any of the doors or windows. My dad never heard a thing. He's a real sound sleeper and cannot wake up to save his life. After the 6th or 7th day, the noises stopped, but the stupid, distorted animal noises, a mixture of dog, screeching bird, and something else, remained until the last day. After the 7th day, nothing ever like that happened again, though sometimes at night I would see those red eyes or hear a distant animal noise, but never close enough for me to feel like I was in danger and it was targeting me. I stayed at that house for another year or so before I moved to my mom's, for other reasons unrelated to this. But a half a year ago I started to hear growling noises near my window. but they weren't a distinctive animal. Like it was inhuman but animalistic, if that makes any sense at all. I'm scared every once in a while and constantly paranoid at night, making sure everything is locked and there's a light on in the room before I do anything. But I haven't heard anything or seen anything since. Today's third experience. This happened in July of this year in the northeastern part of Arizona, south of the Native American res. I've never had an experience with anything like this before. There was one time I was camping with two of my buddies, and neither of them are really outdoorsy type. I was just kind of getting them into the woods, the whole camping and hunting scene. Now I love hiking, exploring, more like because I hate just walking a trail. You're seeing nothing new, so I took two friends out there a ways and got a couple miles from camp. When they just wanted to go back, I said fine and showed them where to go on my phone, and made them put a waypoint on their little GPS. I wanted to keep going, so I did so by myself. They wanted the pistol I had for safety reasons, leaving me to walk alone in the forest with water and nothing else. No big deal, I thought. I found a steep hillside with rocks all the way down when I was about 5 miles from camp and decided to go down it. I followed the path at the bottom of this thing, which was, at this point, just a dry riverbed. I walked down, and it got steeper as I went further south. When I crossed a certain point, something just felt wrong. I started to look around for anything, but there was this huge log across the two hillsides, and when I crouched down to crawl under it, it felt like I was being watched. I looked up to my left and saw nothing, looked around to see if there was anything in the middle of the riverbed, then looked up to the right. Huge black canine, too small to be a bear, but it looked like a wolf on steroids. That dog creature and I held glances for what felt like hours, but I know it couldn't have been any more than 10 seconds. Every passing moment made the feeling of dread worse. I moved backwards and got out of there. And when I moved, this creature just booked it into the forest further from camp. Now, in hindsight, this thing was moving faster than any dog I had ever seen. The walk back was very eerie. It didn't feel as much as I was being watched, as just the feeling of, it will catch me eventually, and that's why I don't go hiking alone anymore. The walk back was eerie. It didn't feel as much as I was being watched as to just the feeling of it will catch me eventually, and that's why I don't hike alone anymore. I had to make that sentence right, guys. You understand. Today's fourth experience. This happened while camping in northern Utah. We had just gotten up to our campsite at around 4 p.m. My friend needed to go to the restroom, so she walked a little into the woods by another campsite that was empty. As she was walking up, I saw her stop for a moment and just looked around. I asked her if she wanted me to go with her. We're both girls, and she said no, she's fine, and went to the bathroom and came back. Later that night, we're sitting around the fire with two other friends, and she seemed kind of on edge. And I started to poke fun at her, as that's how we joke with each other, and she told me she had seen something just past the tree line as she was walking up to use the bathroom. She described it as having pale skin. The face looked like a mixture of a human and a canine, and had black eyes. It was hunched over on all fours, and its back legs looked distorted. And she said that she could tell it would be tall if it were to stand on its hind legs. She could also see its spine protruding. While telling her sister what she had told me, she also said that while she was up there, it had walked directly in front of her, stopped and stared at her. So she just cleaned back to our campsite. Her sister says it was most likely a hairless bear or a coyote, although bears aren't super common up here, or a wolf with mange. I personally have no idea. Well, I do. It was a monster. I'm just kidding. It was something. Maybe a dogman with mange. I mean, here's something that we have to think about. These things live in the wild. They sleep in moist areas. We've heard multiple times that these things live in cemeteries. Will sleep right on the dirt, especially on a fresh grave. They'll just sleep right there. Now, maybe, just maybe it was a dogman with mange. It's a wild animal. It lives in the wild. So why wouldn't it be able to get mange? I don't know. I'm no expert. Moving on. And tonight's final encounter. I heard a disturbing deep growl on July 31st of 2022 at approximately 9:45 p.m. that sent chills up my spine. I'm in Wears Valley, Tennessee. Something is amiss. Before I explain this incident, I will give you a little background on myself for some clarity. I have backpacked over 400 miles of the Great Smoky Mountains. My family is from this area, individually and as a group. I have seen, heard, and felt a number of wildlife and odd things. Bear, big cat, hog, coyote, etc. Once, even a strange young girl that seemed out of place, which I dismissed because I was tired, dehydrated, and had been on the trail too many days with too many campfire ghost stories. With that said, I have given very little thought concerning Sasquatch or Dogman, its existence, or things that go bump in the night until that night. I stepped out onto my mama's stoop to have a smoke. It was very dark and quiet with the exception of a light breeze. It was strangely quiet. I was outside for approximately 2 minutes when I heard the deepest, most menacing growl I had ever heard. It sent chills up my spine and froze me in that spot. I saw nothing, but felt like it was something, and it was staring at me and staring me down hard. It seemed to be close to me. Without turning my back to the fence line or woods, I opened the door and slowly went outside. This was not a dog, not a coyote, and not a wolf. Some say they exist here. This was something very large by the sound. The strangest part is how menacing it seemed. It was truly frightening. However, curiosity got the best of me. At 10:30 that evening, I went back outside. Same stoop, same door. This time I had a firearm. It was eerily quiet. Something was staring at me, and I felt it. I heard nothing. I saw nothing. The presence seemed very large. Here's the odd part of this experience. This holler is full of animals, dogs, goats, chickens, hens, etc. There is usually some noise at most times of the day and night. That night, when I was outside, there was not a sound, just the growl, one deep growl. The next day, it was strangely quiet as well, from the roosters to the rest. Something was/is here, for what it's worth. I'm a realist, and I'm not easily spooked. I've slept very little since this experience. Alright guys, and here is the last part of the upload. Like I said, I was going to give you guys the update on what DJ shared with me the other day. DJ, how are you, buddy?
I'm doing fine, Jeff. Thanks for asking.
Well, I appreciate you sending me the picture, and we'll talk about the picture first, and then, if you don't mind, kind of briefly share what happened. So the picture is at your house. Why don't you give us a little detail on what is the story behind the pic?
If you're facing from the front of the house over toward the roadway, it's on the left-hand corner. It's it's where the water comes down the top of the roof. It's our pour spout off the roof, and it comes down and pours into a drain. And I don't know, for just some reason, I was out there the other evening and I was walking the dogs, and looked up, and our bigger dog was curious about sniffing around there, and our smaller dog put her tail between her legs and didn't want to go around the corner. I didn't think nothing of it. And I was just sitting there looking around, and our bigger dog started smelling the drain right there, and I looked up, and the gutter, the drain pipe gutter that comes down the corner of the house and the foundation, there was a scar on it. I got to looking and thought it was just maybe a scratch, but, well, it was a scratch. But there was 4 other uniform scratches beside of it, and I got to looking closely, and it's about 6 or 7 inches taller off the top of my head. And I put my hand up to it, and just like how we were made, each finger has a different size and a different length. And evidently this was from the right hand, paw, or whatever you'd call it, I guess off of one of these Dogmen, because the claws are perpetually shorter in diameter, just like a human hand is, like your index finger, your ring finger, your pinky finger. And this thing even had the thumbprint, where it evidently was leaning around the corner, holding onto that pipe, had its hand on the wall, and was looking around the corner to spy if we were here or active, or see if it was in traffic coming down. That's the only thing I know, because down here at the bottom of the hill, the dusk to dawn light provides enough light. You know, in the night you can see in the yard, you can see shadows and stuff like that. Evidently, this thing has been spying around the house here, because it led up to it as I called to try to get a hold of you the weekend, and, you know, you were busy. A little after 12 one night, I was sitting here, and I heard something rattle the screen door. Huh. Well, you know, we've got cats outside that come and go, but if it would have been just once, it would have been dismissible.
Right.
But it happened 3 times, and on the 3rd time, I mean, it actually shook the screen door. Because we've got 2 of the regular T-bolts like you would have on inside of a door, like the bolt where you pull up, lift, push to the side, go down in that little groove that's designed that you step on the door and it's drilled in and fold it over. We've got 2 of them, one at the top of the screen door and one at the bottom, and we lock it. That's the reason it couldn't get admittance. And then on that last one, I heard when I got up to start moving around and looking, the light shined enough of the shadows. I seen a quick shadow run through by the bay window, the picture window in the following room connected to the living room and off the porch. And I mean, it was so quick it couldn't have been human, and it was way too big for a regular animal. So I've had it's true to say it's been quiet around here, but as Simon says, there's always quiet before the storm.
Right.
And evidently don't know which one it is. I don't know nothing about this one, but it's getting way too close for comfort and getting a little bit too big for its britches wanting to explore.
Yeah.
And I sat up the rest of that night, as I told you, from 12 till 5 a.m. until I finally started seeing the orange in the early morning sky with the sun coming up. I sat in here with a handgun, and I don't know if it was trying just out of curiosity to see how far it could get, or if it was doing it to get a laugh, or I don't know, but way too much activity and too close for me.
Yeah, and you and I were talking about whether or not, because I was like, well, you think it's the female, and then I remembered what the DNR agent out of Smith County said, that there was a female and a pup found. And maybe, I mean, I didn't share this with you because I just was thinking about it. I wrote it down, but maybe it was the, like you said, the big male snooping around looking for that female and the pup.
I would hope that it wasn't that female pup that got assassinated, but you're very right, it possibly could be. And I figured it was male, the one that come back here on the back side of the house at dark one night and looked in the window.
Because
oh my gosh,
that pup, or the scratches are
huge.
Pretty high up as well. I think you said you brought your son-in-law or something out there.
Yeah, my son's 6'6".
Okay.
And it come up to his face, to the top of his head. So it's either 6 those are just the markings at 6.5 foot, 6.5, 7 foot. So you can imagine, standing at normal posture on two legs. If its print was there,
it's got to be at least 8 feet.
It's got to be exactly at least 8 foot tall.
Jeez.
That's scary as heck.
Have you heard anything else strange going on out there? No, the cat's acting all right, and
the cats are not staying on the porch anymore. The cats are staying down here in the old brick barn. They're staying there. In other words, they've done set out for cover, and they've got it. And I don't think this thing can get them out of the barn, because one end of it had failed years ago, and it's, from knee high to me up to my waist, and it would have to get down there and try to crawl, and even the spaces for it are too big, so the cats are pretty well safe down there.
Right. Yeah, good.
But they do not stay on the porch anymore.
Right. Yeah, it's another thing I want to bring up really quick is, I had the lady that shared her experience, and she had talked about how her cat wanted to go in and out of her house. There are some cats that just don't want to be inside, and you cannot keep a cat inside like a dog, No,
it's their natural instinct.
Yeah, I had a cat and she was the best cat that I've ever owned. She never used a litter box. She never went to the bathroom in the house, but when she had to go to the bathroom, she went to the door and cried till she got let out. And
right.
I tried to litter box train her, and she just didn't want any part of it. And unfortunately, some cats, either way you look at it, they'll find a way out. That's their cats,
Exactly.
So, I don't want people being like, well, you need to bring your cats in because,
Cats are natural survivors. They can survive in the wild on their own, just one. It's in their blood. It's where a domesticated dog cannot do so. They can only survive if they live close to humans, or if not, if they have a pack.
Right.
And that's the only way they can survive. And even a pack of dogs that have went wild, they only eat maybe 30% of the time. And it's very hard for a dog to survive in the wild on its own, because it doesn't have the gifts of nature give it like that of a feline.
Yeah, like in the beginning part of this video, I was talking about, cats being apex predators, and that they are, big cats, cats over in Africa and stuff, and cougars and mountain lions and stuff. But, so I just didn't want people to, blow smoke at you saying you need to put your cats in. Now, I really hope that, I hope this is just an isolated incident. Hopefully it is. But, keep me in the loop, will you, please? And be
Definitely
safe out there, will you?
As long as the good word will and the creek doesn't rise, I'll be right here.
I hear you, brother. All right, well, I will talk to you soon. Don't hang up, because I'm going to continue talking with you a bit after.
All right.
All right, buddy. Thanks a lot for coming on.
All right, Jeff. You have a good night.
You as well, my friend.
All right, bye-bye.
All right, guys. Like I said, I had a pretty decent upload for y'all. Update with DJ and some pretty terrifying encounters with an update for the channel. I hope you guys enjoyed this as much as I enjoyed sharing it with you. Please have a wonderful day. May the Great Spirit watch over us all, and may He guide us down that path that we call life.